Hey everyone, it's Stalky Boy here, and today I will be summarizing and giving my opinions on all of the classic Evil Dead films. Right on time for Evil Dead the game. Evil Dead is known for combining horror with comedy, but also having lots and lots and lots of blood. With Ash being extremely different from any other horror protagonist, he uses humor as a shield from everything he's had to endure, and for me, he is my absolute favorite horror protagonist. But he didn't start off as the loudmouth, hilarious individual we know today. In fact, what Evil Dead is most known for isn't extremely present in the original film, other than the blood. That is absolutely present here, and it's definitely the grossest in the series. The original film plays the most like a classic horror film with very few laughs. Ash is apprehensive and sweet. He feels very much like any other final victim in a horror film. We meet our characters on a car ride to the iconic cabin owned by Professor Noby. The characters we meet are Cheryl Williams, which is Ash's sister. Scotty, he's the jock of the group, he's a jerk. Scotty and Cheryl will both be in the new Evil Dead the game, so in case you're wondering who they are, this is where they come from. Cheryl being the sister, Scotty being friend to Ash. Shelly, who is Scotty's girlfriend, and sweet, lovable Linda, Ash's girlfriend. While riding to the cabin, we get a sweet POV shot of the demon, which just gives an amazing, ominous vibe. This style of camera movement is iconic for the Evil Dead franchise. Once our characters get to their destination, we learn that Scotty rented this cabin, which is why our heroes are here in the first place. It doesn't take too long for the gang to find the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon.
Side effects may include
death,
Probably some minor headache, you know, the usual dead people, possession.
Which, fun fact, the movie was originally going to be called The Book of the Dead, but after director Sam Raimi showed the film to a man by the name of Irvin Shapiro, he recommended changing the name since Book of the Dead implied there would be lots of reading, with some audience members being turned off to that. Raimi brainstormed and came up with the Evil Dead title, which nobody liked initially. Scotty and Ash find a recording of the Necronomicon pages being read, and they decide to play this haunted audiobook. Cheryl, having an encounter with the demons earlier, is instantly creeped out by it and asks for it to be stopped. Scotty insists on continuing the tape. Big brother Ash defends his sister and gets huffy at Scott for continuing the haunted audiobook. We then get a really cute scene with Ash giving Linda a necklace. He fakes pretending falling to sleep, taking peeks here and there. It's really cute. It's a very stark contrast to how Ash handles, well, the ladies after the first two Evil Dead films. So it's nice to see that at one point, he was quite the charmer. We then go back to Cheryl, who is tempted by the demon to go outside. She follows the prompt and gets attacked by a tree in a very uncomfortable manner. Once back, Cheryl tells the gang about the attack once they see her wounds. She insists on leaving. Ash is a little hesitant to believe that the woods attacked her, but seeing how terrified she is, Ash takes her out of town. But the demon doesn't let them leave. They find the bridge torn apart, so they return back to the group. Cheryl gets possessed in an amazing scene, probably my favorite from the entire movie. Linda and Shelly are playing a game of cards, with one guessing the card that's in the other's hand. Cheryl starts naming all the cards correctly in the most chilling way possible. Phenomenal scene. She then plays dead and catches Linda by surprise, stabbing her in the ankle. They lock Cheryl up, and of course they begin panicking, and within their panic, Shelly gets possessed, which, if you don't remember, is Scotty's girlfriend. And Scotty quickly, alarmingly responds to just immediately kill his girlfriend. He's just ready, dude. I don't know if they were in some kind of argument before to all of this, but he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna kill my girlfriend. And he grabs the Kandarian dagger, which they found with the Necronomicon. Think of it as like the Master Sword, but for Deadites. Deadites really hate this little dagger. It becomes very important in the future of the franchise. After killing his girlfriend, he decides Ash and Linda are on their own, and he just heads off into the woods by himself, because that's just the kind of guy Scotty is. And after this, it repeats a similar formula with a slight different tastes. Everybody eventually becomes possessed with different personalities and traits. Linda is the creepiest of all. She just stares, smiling. She freaks me out, definitely by far the most. Eventually, Scotty becomes possessed as well, and there's a whole bunch of other shenanigans that happen. And of course, like all horror movies, it doesn't end super well. What's important to know for this film is nobody survives except for Ash. This becomes a plot line later within the show. And that is the first Evil Dead movie. Like I mentioned earlier, this film is definitely the scariest of the classic films. It doesn't play many moments for laughs. Ash feels like a normal horror protagonist. What makes this horror film so different from the others is the Deadites and the budget. The Deadites are such a unique threat with so much personality. It makes the film really stand out when the industry was filled with so many silent antagonists. The small budget gives it an almost homemade vibe. It just makes it feel a little more grounded for me. The effects are the most gnarly in the entire franchise. While the future sequels do have blood, in this movie it's like yogurt mixed with all sorts of gross stuff. In the future it feels way more like it's like a cartoon. This time it's super gross, man. It's a great horror flick and I highly recommend you check it out. Now, Evil Dead 2. This film is the fan favorite film and also my favorite film from the franchise. Evil Dead 2 has a much bigger budget than its predecessor, and that's because of Stephen King. Yup, he loved the first film and he brought attention to producer Dino De Laurentiis, and Mr. Dino funded this film. The movie starts in a really confusing way. It starts off with a sort of remake to the original. This is most likely due to the film being released 6 years after the first. We don't want old Granny saying, "Who's dead and why are they evil?" So to not confuse audiences and not have to worry about continuity, who wants to go back and rewatch the first film after all of that and try and recreate every single window broken and that sort of nature? Raimi reshoots scenes for a quick summary of the first. The big difference in these reshoots being that it's only Ash and Linda that drive up to the cabin. Despite this, I still consider this a mostly true sequel since the TV show references his sister. And obviously, his hand is cut off, so both of these movies have to exist within the same continuity. Ash nearly loses his mind in this film, going through a ton once again. Bruce nails the role, and you feel the poor man's pain, especially when Ash's hand gets possessed. But it's not all played for horror. The movie is pretty funny. Ash has amazing iconic one-liners throughout the film, while also still taking certain situations seriously. It beautifully transitions between these two movies. And in this movie, Ash finally starts to really become different from your typical Laurie Strode or Sidney Prescott. Instead of responding and being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna become so much stronger," and they're usually all grim and the such, Ash is super funny. At one point, like, he has like a jig going on with the Evil Dead and stuff like that. It's hilarious. It's fun to see a character respond to all this pain and try and turn it into something more positive. It makes it so different and entertaining for me, which is why he's my favorite. But you can also see here and there, like, the man is going through immense pain. In the show, he has a hard time trying to finally move on and allow himself to have people get closer to him. We are also introduced to Annie Nobi and her boyfriend, Ed, both of which will be in the new game. Ed isn't extremely memorable, so unmemorable that Annie herself seems to get over his death pretty easily. And by the end of the film, you can feel some strong chemistry between her and Ash. She is definitely one of my favorites, a really strong female lead, her and Ash both playing strong parts against the Deadites. It's also important to know that she is the daughter of Professor Nobi, which is the person who recorded for the haunted audiobook within the first film. So she is very familiar with reading the Necronomicon and all of that stuff. She's familiar with the Deadite stuff to some degree. And her sister, Ruby, becomes important within the TV show. This movie also has the iconic chopping off the hand scene and replacing it with the chainsaw. Tons of amazing moments. It recaps the first film to a degree, and you get a very good idea as to what makes Evil Dead unique. If you had to just watch one Evil Dead movie, watch Evil Dead 2. Army of Darkness once again goes for a different tone. While Evil Dead 2 was a horror comedy, Army of Darkness is a full-on comedy, and it is amazing. Ash gets time traveled back to medieval times due to the Necronomicon, and has to make his way back. The romance is terrible in this film, but everything else is great. Ash is just plopped right in the middle of a feud between King Arthur and Lord Henry. Arthur seems to be the more professional of the two, while Henry seems to be more of the light-hearted leader. I just want to put emphasis on these two characters since they will be in Evil Dead the game, so now you know who they are. Instead of normal Deadites, which are still in this film, you've got the iconic Evil Ash and, her, you get an amazing, hilarious skeleton army. They remind me a lot of the battle droids from Star Wars. The whole movie builds up to an amazing final sequence with the humans taking on the Army of Darkness. Ash gets an awesome tank scene, which features his iconic Delta, which, real quick, is the car that you see Ash and gang driving in the first film. The Delta is a reoccurring vehicle. You need to know that. I hope you're taking notes. This movie is just a fun ride from beginning to end. Ton of shenanigans happen. Ash is a complete jerk in this. He's so done with everything that's happened and he just wants it to be done. You really feel for the guy, but also he can be a real jerk. If you aren't too fond of horror, this one is for you. But those are all the Evil Dead films. I know I kind of skimmed over the last two. I wanted to go over the first one more since I wanted to put more emphasis on how Ash starts. And I only wanted to give you guys like a rough idea as to what happens because I do feel you should watch these for yourself. But since a lot of stuff is established within the first one, I think it was more important to go over that film a little more so you understand the rules of Deadites and the Necronomicon and the dagger and all of those sort of items. All of them have a very unique and special feel to them. I could see why any of the three would be someone's favorite because of how different each of them are. Evil Dead has been my third favorite horror franchise for a long time. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope those unfamiliar with Evil Dead learned a few things here and are now much more ready for Evil Dead the game. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're interested in more Evil Dead content, I will be making much more of it on YouTube and streaming it on Twitch when the game releases, along with covering the show. Thank you all again for watching. Take care, everyone.